Okay, so welcome to the madness. You'll notice that there's a levee of bricks along here, double tarped with ready to go more clay mortar shall the next inundation hit us. I'm based in Benalla, northeast Victoria, and you can see the other side of the tarps here. Now if you see this brick down here, the water was roughly 2 inches below the brick, which is why I had to build the levee to stop the water going into the shed, because the geniuses that made sure it sloped inwards. This is what I like to call, well, Carbon Oasis. It's my source of sanity. As mentioned, I've got multiple different microenvironments, and talking as I go around, you'll probably pick up on a few of them. Everything was either on hand or scrounged. While it's been frustrating being on New Start, a previous postdoctoral fellow at the University of Cambridge might find some difficulty finding suitable work in Benalla. So I've kept myself as busy as I can to try and back up the climate change document that I was working on with my colleagues. Dr. Phil Schmidt, ex-CSIRO, head of geosciences, and Professor Phil Schmidt, one of the most eminent global economists on MMT. So you'll notice here I've got, there's an overwatered cactus here. I'm just getting rid of some excess water. I've got water lilies. What have we got here? Chives, mint, a decorative plant of some description, some sedges. And this is the aqua rack. It's not in action at the moment. I'll show you things in action a bit later on a different day. You'll notice there's wire around everything because I've got a dog, and I'll explain the reasons for all of that a little bit later. If you're wondering what this structure is, it was my buck's residence until he got wiped out with myxomatosis recently, and it's like this, being exposed to the elements in the sun to try and disinfect it as best I can. So if we move around here, we can start to see where the garden starts. You'll notice there's a large wheelie bin up on my roof. That's where the water reticulation system will end up, and then gravity feeding down into both this grey drum and everything else that's running around it. My artificial wetland is in here. Right at the moment it's a bit dry, but as you can see the soil's moist enough to keep the plants going. And that sink on this side of the blue barrier is the lowest point in the entire backyard, and I now have everything draining down to it. You can pick up, we've got plants here. Now we did get badly waterlogged. That used to be, that's the remains of my prize rosemary, but somehow got waterlogged in spite of the fact that it was, well, demonstrably far higher than the drain running past it. Also had the worst strike of corn I've ever had in my life, courtesy of waterlogging. We've got a raised bed here, which is one of the soil types that I have running, and right at the moment it's almost entirely devoted to members of the allium family. I've got spring onions, white onions, chives, leeks in there, but I also have a row of carrots that are up and running and going reasonably well. You'll notice that this is all cobbled together and repurposed. The reason for this barrier of corn here is to try and break the wind down a bit, because where that bare patch is, I had a prize pumpkin going, and the wind destroyed prize potato going, sorry, and the wind destroyed it. So I'm trying to ameliorate that as well. You'll notice under here I have a couple of zucchinis, moving over some potatoes, In here I've got spinach, cauliflower, beans, more spinach, a different potato, quite a nice tomato plant, a row of chilies, and here my next row of carrots coming up. This bed is mainly beetroot and lettuce. And again, I think you'll see there are different colours moving around the soils here, and these are all the different soil types. I could tell you how I generated them, but then again I might have to hunt you down afterwards. I'm trying to monetize some of this given the amount of time I put into it. Zucchinis, one self-sown pumpkin, and more potatoes. Down here we've got small and large pak choy, another potato and a miniature pumpkin, and yet another row of potatoes. This is an attempt at generating perennial spinach. Let's hope it works. And in here again we have another putative row of corn and some leeks. Now this bed here is a very different soil chemistry to this bed here. The second bit of that bed is again different once more, and the row along that fence and along this fence up to where the potatoes are is another type, and this slightly lower bed in there is yet another. And as I've already shown you, we've got an elevated bed here, which gives us yet another microenvironment to exploit. Well, this is right. This is opal. The whole idea with ecosystems is to have both animals and plants operating. So these guys are my mobile lawn mowers. And when I get a buck that can make it through without getting killed by either calicivirus or mixo, hopefully I'll start breeding rabbits, which are a potential source of meat. The aqua rack here is due to get fish in it once I get the reticulation pumps going. I have a bore over in the far corner over here that I will be accessing with yet another solar pump. This is the very, very different soil I'm working on here, which, as I've advertised previously, is mainly clay, some grass clippings, some charcoal, ashes, and dog manure. In here are my soils that are obviously depleted: washed sand, bricky sand, sheep manure. This was topsoil, but I've chewed it all up this season, but I'm generating more, as I have said. Over here we have an igloo, which is another raised bed, but this one is, well, it's a greenhouse, so useful for generating stuff. You'll notice the succulents around the place. I'm propagating them because they're very easy. I've got 7 different varieties of, 5 different varieties of strawberries growing in here. Over here we have a butternut pumpkin, 2 butternut pumpkins, sorry, and another tomato. And out the front I've sneakily fit in a couple of extra butternuts out in the front garden. We'll see what the neighbours make of that lot. Now this was one of the first constructions I made when I started on this. This is a wicking bed. There's a layer of about 1.5 inches of water right down the bottom of this, and that layer is maintained by this drain that then goes into yet another wicking bed down here, where I'm cultivating mosses and need to put some fresh seeds or cuttings in there to monitor them. But this is not only a wicking bed, it's also a cool store. When I open it up, we've got at the moment we've got some spuds in there, but as you can see, I've got plenty of storage room for when the harvest actually comes in, and aiming at being able to maintain the temperature at a level that does not really require refrigeration. Anyway, that's our first outing for a bit of a trip around my backyard. You can see the area is not large, but I've tried to maximize the variety of environments and the variety of soils to try and completely maximize biodiversity. I've gone chemical free in the garden, and I've got quite an interesting biota showing up. Plenty of skinks. Had a blue tongue over winter, this last winter. I don't know where it has gone. Hopefully out chomping up lots and lots of snails. So I've got grazers as well, with the rabbits and predators, and I suppose the ultimate apex predator is my dog, that really likes chewing things a lot. But birds around here are fantastic. The biggest thing is this just all takes time. You know, a few little finishing touches which I quite liked was, for example, the gateway. That'll do, pig. Alright, I'll sign out for now. Hope you enjoyed watching this. Ciao.